Hello and welcome to Positively United. Today, Wednesday, the 28th of January, 2026. And why don't we discuss a couple of things in today's program? First of all, let's do a roundup of the, I think now increasingly scant January transfer news and maybe also a bit of a summer transfer news rumours that are going around too. But for the majority of the program, I want to come back to the ongoing debate about whether Michael Carrick should be or shouldn't be considered as the permanent head coach at Manchester United. I'm not talking about whether he should be or shouldn't be. I'm talking about whether he ought to be considered to be. And remember, we've got Gary Neville and Roy Keane and others, including some of the louder YouTubers, are saying that under no circumstances should he be considered. Let's get back to that. Let's do a roundup first of the transfer rumours. So the one that's really sort of to pick up today is this one about Mohamed, Kader, Meïté at Rennes. Now, of course, he's a striker, and as I mentioned in my video yesterday, I don't understand why we need to buy a striker at all. I don't understand why we need to buy any forward players or loan any forward players this January transfer window, because I genuinely think we've got an abundance of talent in those positions. The very sad news yesterday that Patrick Dorg is going to be out for anywhere between 8 and 10 weeks, I don't think changes anything there. As I outlined yesterday, you can play Cunha in that position. You could play Mason Mount in that position. You could move Ahmad over to that position. Mbumo goes over to the right. Shesko comes back in as a centre forward. There's absolutely no reason, in my opinion, to go and buy a forward. So I see this rumour as being really almost entirely driven by those fake stories, I think they're fake, that came out yesterday, that the Patrick Dorgu injury was in some way changing Manchester United's focus in the January transfer window. I can't see how it possibly can. The place where the squad is deficient is midfield. We all know that. Manchester United know that, or they wouldn't be chasing 3 midfielders in the summer. None of those midfielders are available in January. The only option, I think, is a stopgap loan in January. Doesn't have to be the best midfielder in the world, doesn't have to be the perfect fit. It just needs to be something that adds depth to the squad. So that if, for example, Michael Carrick is 10 minutes away from an end of the game where we're winning 2-0 and he wants to have more legs in midfield, he can take Mainu off, or he can take Casemiro off, or he can even take both off, and he's got players of reasonable quality to bring on instead, which I just don't think he has at the moment. So I still expect if United do anything in this January transfer window, it will be a loan deal for a midfielder. But that conversation seems to have almost petered out today. There's been hardly any updates at all. At Chelsea, Rafinha has been very, very keen to smash down the talk about Cole Palmer leaving. And has made it really clear as far as he's concerned, Cole Palmer is an integral part of Chelsea's planning for the future. He's happy at Chelsea and he's going nowhere. Well, you can say that, but I just don't believe the rumours that have been going around over the last several days are weak. They seem quite strong and they seem to be relatively well sourced. So I still think there's a lot of legs in that story. It's not going to happen in January. It never was going to happen in January. And it probably only happens in the summer if Bruno Fernandes leaves. But if he does, I think there'll be much more about Cole Palmer's story than a lot of people gave credit for. Some updates on Andre Onana. The talk is that he's likely to end up back at Inter, and apparently contract talks are already on the way between Inter and his entourage. Great. As long as he doesn't end up back at Old Trafford, of which some rumours were going around, but no way. I wish Andre Onana all the best, as long as it's not at United. Ruben Neves, of course, has been mentioned again today, although in the context of apparently interest cooling And this is interesting. Did it ever exist in the first place? Are any of these rumours true ever? So the fact that that one is now described as being cooling, well, was it ever hot? Probably not. The talk about how Maguire has certainly increased today, and there's an awful lot of speculation about whether he will be offered a new contract or not. And apparently there are several clubs in Serie A and some Turkish clubs who are very interested in getting Harry Maguire should he leave United. By the way, if he does leave United, I would expect to see him go abroad. I think actually he'd do really well in Italian football, really well. I think he will leave because I've just got a feeling that Harry probably won't want to play for another Premier League club. Remember, he's offered the opportunity to go and play for West Ham, turn it down. I think he loves United too much. I really do, to play for another Premier League club. I think if he leaves United, it'll be leaving the Premier League totally. My view is Harry Maguire should be offered a new contract. I think he's an absolutely ideal person to have around. Next season, not as a first choice, and I think he'd accept that. Whilst players like Aiden Heaven and are brought forward and turned into full-time players. Look, the first choice too probably would be at any given time would include Martinez and De Ligt. Harry Maguire's not in the first team if everyone's fit, and probably increasingly not so as younger talent emerges. But with Casemiro going, Casemiro is a great leader apparently in the squad. That's what we're told. But we're also told Harry Maguire is too. I know a lot of people would disagree about keeping a player on simply because of his leadership qualities. But I think it could be quite necessary in a transition season, which next season will almost certainly be. So I keep him. I think he's worth at least a 1-year contract, possibly 2. As long as the wages are sensible, I'd keep him. I think he's too good to let go. I really do. And if, like this season, we have a run of injuries in those positions, we might be very, very thankful for Harry Maguire. We really might. So I'd say keep him. I hope he doesn't leave. So let's turn to what I wanted to talk about most in this video, which is this. I think is completely nonsense talk. That Michael Carrick shouldn't even be considered as the permanent head coach at Manchester United, and of course, the two loudest professional voices that have got behind this idea, of course, Gary Neville and Roy Keane. Let's tackle Roy Keane first. I think Nathan Salt put it really well yesterday when he was writing for the Daily Mail, when he said that Roy Keane's criticisms of Manchester United, and particularly his criticisms of Michael Carrick, which have extended, by the way, not just through the start of this period of Michael Carrick being a caretaker coach, but during the first time too, when he managed those 3 games after Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was sacked, Roy Keane has constantly been on Michael Carrick's back. And we all know why, because Roy Keane has got a beef with his wife about comments his wife made on social media. Roy Keane is probably the thinnest skinned commentator on television. He holds a grudge longer than an elephant's memory. And this is quite clearly what is driving his animosity towards Michael Carrick. As Nathan Salt said yesterday, it's boring and tedious. And it is really boring and tedious. I think we can utterly discount Roy Keane's view about Michael Carrick. I genuinely do. It's clearly driven by bitterness and personal animosity. And I don't think we should let the decision about who ought to be the permanent coach at Manchester United be driven by Roy Keane's bitterness and animosity. Gary Neville's position's a lot more difficult to fathom, I think. It's a lot more difficult to fathom. A lot has been mentioned, and a lot of other commentators have been talking about Gary Neville over the last several days. I think Stephen Howson's been doing a really good job in tackling that particular issue, and I won't try and do better than him. Go and watch what he's been saying about Gary Neville. I think it's absolutely spot on. Gary Neville appears to be absolutely obsessed with proving every single day that he's not, when he's on Sky, biased towards Manchester United. I know he will say in commentary, and he'll say when he's doing his podcast, he'll openly admit he's a United fan. Of course he does. When he's commentating on United games, you will hear him sometimes cheer when United score and behind the scenes and that sort of stuff. But I think he's also incredibly nervous. I think over nervous, by the way. I think he's just let it go. That he's seen as too pro Manchester United, or he could be seen as too pro Manchester United. Gary let it go. Nobody minds the fact that Wayne Rooney is absolutely unapologetically pro Manchester United in his commentaries and summaries. Nobody gives a toss that ex-players, generally speaking, support their ex-team. Does anybody really care that a player like, I don't know, Carragher clearly supports Liverpool and openly supports Liverpool? I don't mind that at all. I'd be suspicious if he wasn't. So Gary, just leave it alone. Just let it go. Stop trying to manufacture antagonism towards United where I don't think it exists. I think the Michael Carrick thing from him is driven by that. A desire to sort of create this visible distance between him and Manchester United. But even if we, and by the way, of course, that doesn't take into account some of the louder YouTubers. I think we know one in particular who's gone on record, the video is there for you to watch, saying that Manchester United should have made it abundantly clear. They should have put out a club statement, according to this particular YouTuber, that they would under no circumstances consider Michael Carrick as the next head coach of Manchester United, and make it clear right now. So why don't we, instead of kicking the man, why don't we kick the idea? And the way that I'm going to kick the idea is, this thinking would have led to Barcelona not appointing as their manager in 2008 the most successful current living manager, Pep Guardiola. Now, I can hear the howls of horror at me saying that. Let me just make it clear what I've just said. Of all the current managers currently managing, I think you've got to be willfully perverse not to admit that Pep Guardiola is by far the best. The track record speaks for itself. No one gets anywhere close. Not Ancelotti. Not Tuchel. Nobody. Absolutely nobody. Not even the special one. Pep Guardiola is in a league of his own. But where did that journey start? So let's have a look. So when Pep ended his playing career at Barcelona in 2001, he spent a roaming career after that. He played in Italy, Qatar, and then Mexico. Ended up playing his career with Dorados in Mexico. Retired as a player in July 2006. So season 2006-2007, he had what is sometimes described as his learning year or his apprentice year. So he took a year out. Interesting, he also took a year out when he stopped being Bayern Munich manager, didn't he? Didn't go straight into the City job. So he took this sort of year out, but in that year, he absolutely immersed himself in coaching ideas, in tactic ideas from all around the world, but particularly Mexico, and of course from Spain. got his qualification, his UEFA coaching qualification, or UEFA Pro license. And in season 27-28, he went to Barcelona and was given the job of managing or coaching the Barcelona B team. And he was appointed manager of Barca B in June 2007 or 21st of June. And then in his first season, very first season, won promotion from the fourth tier of Spanish football to Segunda B via the playoffs. So that was one season managing Barcelona's B team. In May 2008, it was announced that he would be replacing Frank Rijkaard as the first team coach of Barcelona at the end of the season. Pep Guardiola had virtually no management experience by the time Barcelona appointed him as the first team coach of their first team. They took a gamble. They took a risk. Perhaps the biggest risk in their history. You know, why did they appoint him? Well, the squad was drifting under Rijkaard. Board was under enormous pressure. And the obvious thing for them to do at that time would have to have given the job to a big name. And the name that was most closely linked with the Barcelona job in that year was Jose Mourinho. But they didn't appoint Jose Mourinho. They appointed Pep Guardiola. Not a celebrity manager. Apparently people in the club were not surprised by the appointment. Not surprised at all. It was kind of like seen as natural. But outside of the club, it was seen as unexpected and a gamble. It was a rookie appointment. Maximum risk. But they appointed him because he was obviously a good coach, or even a great coach, or a great coach in the making. And he got the Barcelona way. He understood about Barca football. Does that remind you of anybody? Let's take a look at Carrick. So Carrick plays until January 2026. And he immediately gets picked up by Jose Mourinho, manager of Manchester United, at that time, as a coach. He goes straight into the coaching team. So his career ends in May 18, moves straight into coaching, joins Jose Mourinho's first team coaching staff straight away. If you look at the quotes that Mourinho makes at the time, they are glowing. Absolutely glowing about Carrick. Mourinho clearly saw Carrick as a great coach in the making. He really did. Just listen to what he says. Go and have a look at the quotes. Search for them on Google. You'll find them. So he's there. He's working as a coach between 2018 and 2021. Obviously, when Mourinho gets the push, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer comes in as manager. Carrick remains as head coach, or on the coaching staff, I should say. And he's clearly identified by very many people, including, by the way, those who didn't want Ole Gunnar Solskjaer reappointed as manager on the sacking of Ruben Amorim. Carrick was clearly identified as being, as it were, the brains, the coaching brains behind the Solskjaer managerial period. I don't know how fair that is, but lots of people were saying it. Oh, you can't appoint Carrick. Sorry, you can't appoint Solskjaer. Why? Well, Michael Carrick won't be on the coaching staff anymore because he wants to be manager himself. That's what they were saying. But the very same man who apparently was responsible for all the good stuff we saw under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer now apparently isn't worthy of consideration. This is despite the fact, by the way, that he, when he had his first period as temporary coach or temporary manager, he won his 3 games against huge opposition, really quality teams. Then went off to manage Middlesbrough. Does what any fair-minded person sees as a really good job at Middlesbrough, but probably held back by the resources available at Borough. He is more qualified to be Manchester United manager. He's got more background as a manager behind him than Pep did when he was appointed Barcelona manager. And yet Michael Carrick shouldn't even be considered as Manchester United head coach. Do we now see how ridiculous this is? If Michael Carrick was appointed permanent head coach at Manchester United, it would be for exactly the same reasons that Pep was appointed manager or head coach of Barcelona way back in 2008. Because the people around them can see that they are truly great coaches in the making. And they get the style, the ethos, the DNA of the clubs that they are being appointed to coach. It worked for Barcelona. And look what that eventually did for Manchester City. Pep Guardiola is the world's most successful current manager. And his first job was given him when he had hardly any managerial experience at all. So Michael Carrick is well enough qualified to be considered to be the next head coach of Manchester United. Whether he is appointed or not is a completely different matter. And Manchester United, of course, should carry on looking at alternatives like Tuchel, like Ancelotti. I'd like to see Pep in that list too. But when they get around the table in April, because I'm assuming it is going to be April, and they decide who is going to be the permanent head coach at Manchester United, Michael Carrick should definitely be on that list. Now, he might not get the job because who knows how the results are going to pan out between now and the end of the season. But I can tell you one thing, Roy. If Michael Carrick's Manchester United wins every game between now and the end of the season, they shouldn't just give him a head coach job. They should build a statue for him outside the ground. Because it will be one of the most amazing achievements this club has ever seen. Okay, that's all I wanted to say for today. If you like the video, please hit the like button. If you like what I do on this channel, please subscribe. If you know of anybody who might like what I do here on this channel, please let them know that the channel exists and try and persuade them to subscribe too. If you want to make a donation to the work that we do here, I've set up a Ko-fi account. The link is in the description. Follow us on X. Try to post on X several times a day, so it's worth following us on X too. So that's it for today. Until I see you again next time, remember, always be positively united.